Okay, g'day folks, it's Ashley here, and I'm actually going to do a quick tutorial on how to fuel a 737. It's actually quite simple. It's got an aircraft with 3 fuel tanks, and left wing, right wing, and a center tank. And this first one, which is up here by the fence, is a 737. It looks like it's a 737-800. So what we're going to do is just quickly fuel this one. It's a Max, 737-800 Max. Just looking at this tight space that we have here, my guess is in real life I think they do use trucks. This is Key West, by the way. But this truck, for my opinion, is too big for this operation, because where they've got you parking here, this is actually a major thoroughfare for the ramp guys, or whether it be belt loaders, baggage carts, pushbacks, etc. Because with this location, there's no jet bridges, and so all the passengers are going to be walking across the tarmac there. So you don't want to be driving around the front of the aircraft, with the exception to the pushback when you hook that up. You wouldn't do that when there are passengers walking around. So I'm blocking their major thoroughfare here. So I think in reality they probably wouldn't park the truck here, but that's okay. So I'll just get back in the cab here. And the first thing you do is we're going to check this. Now we're at gate 7, so that's the Seattle flight. So we're going to refuel this aircraft, and they're looking for 37,450 pounds of fuel. The thing is, there's a minor calculation you have to do, because you have to determine which tank holds how much fuel, or how much fuel to put in each tank. Now, the 737-800, or the 900 as well, and whether it be a MAX or non-MAX, each wing actually holds 8,600 pounds. I myself actually fuel each wing to 8,500. So to calculate how much fuel to put in there, all you need to do is plug the total in, so 37, we'll put 500, we'll round it up. And all you need to do, so that's the total amount of fuel, and if each wing holds 8,500, the remaining is going to have to go in the center tank. So all you do is go minus 8,500 for one wing, minus 8,500 for the other wing, or you could minus 17,000. And that'll give you the total that you need to put in the center tank. In this case is 20,500. So we just got to remember that for later. So let's get out of this, and we'll get outside and start setting up. All right, so the first thing you do, obviously the engine's going to be running the whole time, because you need the pump running to pump the fuel from the truck to the aircraft. So first thing you do is actually you'd put shocks between the wheel. But I understand why they don't simulate that in this simulator, because that would be kind of tedious. So the first thing, actually, even before I even do this, in real life, what I would do, now I know this aircraft's is going to need fuel, but there are times where you open the panel and it's already got enough fuel, so you don't actually need to add any. And it's really annoying if you get the grounding cable and the hose and the ladder, you set it all up, you go to open the panel, and then you realize they don't need fuel. So if there's any airline pilots out there, or flight instructors who are going to become airline pilots shortly, if you're ever wondering why they open the fuel panel first before they do anything else as soon as you pull up at the gate, it's because they're going to determine if they need to add fuel or not. Because you don't want to set it up, especially if it's raining, snowing and icy and stuff, and then realize you don't need to add any. So we'll grab this grounding cable here, and we'll connect it to the aircraft, because you've got to have the same static charge between the aircraft and the truck, or a fuel card if you use a fuel card. And we'll just connect it there. That's normally where you connect an Airbus thing, a grounding cable. The 737s you connect actually right there where that dot is. But that's okay. It didn't need to be simulated precisely. That's fine. It does the job. The principles are the same. Let's grab the hose. And obviously you're pretending there's a ladder here. For the 737s, I'm 6 foot tall, so I actually need about a 4 or 5 foot boost to reach the hose comfortably. And before you start, obviously you go to the meter. There's no meter on this in the simulator here, but you go to the meter, you'd write down the start number on your meter, and you'd note again when you finish. And also, we hold a trigger that's physically connected to the truck or the fuel cart. So if we have to hold the trigger down in order for the fuel to flow. So if for any reason we need to stop the fuel immediately, we can just let go of the trigger. This doesn't have a trigger, and I understand why they didn't simulate that, but this is the equivalent, where you release the handle so that the fuel is ready to flow. Now, it's not going to flow yet because I'm yet to open the fuel gauges. Now, let's go up there. In real life, these preset amounts you actually don't use because they're quite unreliable. So the fact that it's in the simulator, it's kind of annoying, because no one uses these. And even in the 737-900s, they actually don't even have these in there. Everything else is the same, but the 900s don't have these at all. And no one uses these because they're not reliable. And when I was training, my trainer told me that actually, supposedly Boeing even recommended you don't even use it. It's not that reliable. Even if you don't use it and you just open the valves and the fuel starts flowing, you can actually just close the valves manually and it works fine. There is an automatic system that's supposed to stop the fuel flow when the tanks are full, but once again, you cannot rely on that system. It's not always working, because there's been colleagues of mine, but they had their back turned while they were filling out paperwork, and the tank filled up and it didn't stop, and it just started pouring out of the overflow and on the wingtips, and it creates a big mess. Now, we only need a 20.5 in the middle, so that's fine. We can stop that. And with Boeings, when you open a tank, the light turns on. And with Airbuses, it's the opposite. Whenever the tank is full, the light comes on. So the reason I started this one a few seconds later is because in reality, the hose is hooked up to tank number 2. This is the right-hand tank that we're connected to. So this one actually always fills quicker than the other tank. So I wish that would go away. This is what it's like. There's a lag between the two because the fuel is all coming in through this wing, and it takes a little while to get through the pipes down across the other side of the aircraft into the other wing, and so it always lags a little bit behind. And also in reality, you'd fill all 3 tanks at the same time in order to save time, because usually you have one flight after the other, and they're all fairly close together. So you don't want to waste any time waiting to fill the wings, and then you go, oh, now I need to fill the wings, the center tank. But, that's really annoying. Go away. Also, these gauges do not read in decimals. They move up in 10-pound increments because that's all you need. So we're almost there. I'm intending to get at 8.5. 3, 4. Oop. There we go, 8.5. And once again, in reality, this one would be flowing as well. If you shut it at 8,460, it'll actually stop at 8.5 or thereabouts, because when you shut the valve off, the valves don't close immediately. It just takes a little while. And with the center tank, when you close the valve switch, the valve itself closes about 100 pounds later. Okay, so we want 20,500 in the middle, because this flight's going to Seattle, which is obviously a long way away. And while this is filling up, I'll just explain how companies, other airlines, actually do this. With regards to that electronic device that we were looking at earlier in the cab, it gives you the fuel flow. It normally will give you the tail number and the gate as well. But what it doesn't give you is what's called see here, that's a ship number. Every airline's got one. And with American Airlines, this is just an American Airlines example I'm using, 3 Juliet Lima. It has nothing to do with the N number, but each aircraft within their fleet has its own ship number. Now, the reason they do that is because it's to try and prevent people fueling the wrong aircraft, and it's probably used for other means as well. So with the tail number in the electronic device, you pull up to the gate, you check the tail number, and then you have to get the ship number. And I'll try and show you here that the ship number is also located with all these airlines. It's always on the nose as well. So if anyone's ever wondered what those numbers are, they're the ship numbers. And that's for people like fuelers, and no doubt other people as well, to fuel the correct aircraft. Okay, we're partway there. I wish you could get rid of that. Okay, so we're at 11,000.3, 20.5 we need. This is fueling a lot quicker than it does in real life. The fastest speed I've refueled aircraft on a 737 with all three tanks open is about 412 gallons per minute. And it takes about 15 minutes to do a Seattle flight. From Indianapolis to Seattle, it's about 15 minutes to fuel it non-stop. And once again, it's 8.5 in either wing. Actually, some companies might prefer that, even though the wings hold 8.6. Now, the reason I go with 8.5 is because of fuel density. Now, the thing with fuel, based on whatever the outside air temperature is, that 1 gallon of fuel could take up a bit more space in the heat, meaning it expands a little bit, taking up more room. But in the winter, it shrinks down a little bit. And if you're talking in 1 or 2 or even 10 gallons, it doesn't really make much difference. But when you're talking thousands upon thousands of gallons, like over 3,000 gallons, it makes a difference. It really adds up. And so in summertime, you sometimes would actually struggle to get 8,600 in the wings. So I always aim for 8,500. And I remember when it was about minus 20 degrees Celsius on the ramp one day, and one of the guys, he was chatting with one of the other guys while he was fueling it, and the wings, he actually managed to put 8,800 in the wings because it was so cold, the fuel took up a lot less space. But the only problem is with the fuel, just a bit short. Oh, 9 pounds, you serious? There we go. It was winter time because the fuel took up a lot less space, and so he was able to fit more in there. He didn't intentionally do it. He was chatting with one of the guys, but it didn't overflow. It all managed to fit. But I aim for 8.5 throughout the year, just because I know that's going to fit for the most part. There's been occasions where it was really hot, it did even fit 8.5, but for the most part 8.5 works. But also 8.5 on either wing is 17,000 in total. So that makes it easy to work out in your head how much to add in the center tank if you need to add any at all. So if you got 17,000 or less pounds requested fuel, you don't need to add anything in the middle tank. But if it's more than 17,000, that's what needs to go in the center tank. It's easy. All right, so we've got enough fuel on board. That's what the minimum is. Now, in reality, I might be fueling an aircraft an hour before departure, and if the APU is running, it's going to burn approximately 200 pounds of fuel per hour. So I'll give them about 200 more. And also with Indianapolis during winter, during the de-ice season, they do de-icing not at the gate, but after they've pushed back. So they'll have the APU running, and sometimes they'll wait in line for 10 or 15 minutes before they even get de-iced. And even then, that'll take about 10 minutes. So that could be an additional 10, 15, or even 25-minute wait after they've even pushed back, and that's after you've filled it for an hour. So the most I go is about 300 pounds over what they ask for, depending on how much time there is before they depart. Oh, that's a bit long-winded. But anyway, okay. We've finished the fueling, so we'll head back to the truck. In this particular case, we're going to move the handle back up, so that's the equivalent of letting go of the remote trigger that you'd hold in real life. Now, because the valves were closed when the fuel was flowing at a high rate, the fuel pressure that was in the hose is trapped in there still. So, I mean, it's not simulated in this game. Why isn't it? There we go. So, in reality, you'd relieve the pressure, and what you would do is you would just open the fuel tank, knowing because you've let go of the trigger or you've shut the valve off, so there's no more fuel going to flow, but whatever pressure's remaining in the hose, it's going to be released into the center tank. It might go up by 10 pounds or something, if that. and then you just let go. And if you're holding onto the hose when you do it, you can actually feel it come down. So that's finished there. Now I can disconnect it. And we can actually close the panel now too. And also you'd write the numbers down for the ticket for future reference. So we'll close that. Obviously you close it, you close each button one at a time. There's 4 of them, just as depicted here. And then you just tap on it just to make sure that it's closed correctly. And there's a little squat switch inside the fuel panel there. And so that'll turn the light off in the flight deck to let the pilots know that you've closed the fuel panel, because that'll be indicated on one of their screens. And we'll disconnect the ground cable. Here we go. Hook that up. All right, you'd write down, obviously there's no meter depicted here, but you'd write down the final fuel load, the meter number and stuff like that. And then you'd plug it into the data that you'd send to the flight crew, which would include the ship number. And don't forget that ship number is to help you confirm that you fueled the correct aircraft, because people have fueled the wrong aircraft in the past. All right, we're finished here. And that is all there is to fueling a 737. As you can see, it's very easy. All right, obviously you'd remove the chocks. You'd hang the chocks up, get back in the truck. And in a situation like this, you'd actually have a marshaller, because obviously you have quite a blind spot behind you when you need to back up. This is all we've got for now. And that is how it's done. And of course, the same process is repeated for every other flight that you've got to fuel. And obviously, depending on where that flight's going, it's going to be asking for a different amount of fuel. It's going to vary on the weather at the destination, how many people are on board, how far it has to go, et cetera, what route they're taking. So, yeah, that's all there is to it. And hopefully I was able to teach you something about fueling and how simple it really is. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later.